This video is highlighting the writings of Sam Harris on his Substack. He titled this Substack, Sometimes Violence Really is the Answer. Here's his article.
The recent attack against Hezbollah in Lebanon produced the expected bafflement and preening among those who can afford, or think they can afford, to remain confused about the ethics of human violence. Thousands of electronic pagers, and later handheld radios, exploded simultaneously, killing dozens and injuring vast numbers of jihadists. This attack, the ingenuity of which cannot be denied, has been widely criticized as a dangerous escalation, as a breach of the rules of war, and most ludicrously, as an act of terrorism. But if this Trojan horse operation was as precise as it appears to have been, then it ranks among the most ethical acts of self-defense in memory. There are no innocent members of Hezbollah, whose only contributions to human culture have been the ruination of Lebanon and the modern evil of suicide bombing. This Iranian proxy has been firing rockets into northern Israel since October 8th, in response to, well, nothing at all. Israel's occupation of Lebanon ended a quarter-century ago. If the Israelis managed to target members of Hezbollah by turning their personal electronic equipment into bombs without seeding such bombs indiscriminately throughout Lebanon, then they achieved a triple victory. First, they killed or maimed the very people who have been trying to murder them and who have displaced 70,000 innocent Israeli civilians from their homes. Second, they marked actual jihadists among the survivors, presumably making them easier to capture or kill in the future, and, one can only hope, reducing their status in Lebanese society. And third, they have stripped away some of the glamour of jihad. The promise of paradise is one thing. The prospect of living without fingers or eyes is another.
Let's pause and ask the question. Is there anything that Israel has done that Sam has heavily criticized? Does Sam have a line that if Israel crosses, he will no longer support them? So far, we may have decent reason to be skeptical that he will critique Israel. Israel has killed a lot of journalists at this point, and I haven't heard Sam offer a harsh critique of it. He will soon talk in his Substack of targeting of the attack. Did Israel intentionally target all they killed in Gaza? Let's get back to Sam's Substack.
Again, the righteousness of this attack depends on whether it was as targeted as it seems. Tragically, 4 children are reported to have been killed. However, compared to almost any other military operation, this act of mass sabotage appears to have produced very few unintended deaths. It is an example of exactly the sort of calibrated violence that Israel's critics claim to support. And it has delivered a profound psychological blow to one of the most ruthless jihadist organizations on earth. Of course, many assert that any acts of retaliation, however precise, simply breed more violence. They seem to believe that pacifism, in some form, must be the ultimate answer to Israel's existential concerns. After all, how else will the killing stop? Some terrible ideas are easily mistaken for wisdom, and none accomplishes this trick so well and so misleadingly as pacifism. It is almost entirely due to their pacifism that figures like Tolstoy and Gandhi were considered sages. And in this context, it is worth recalling the latter's advice to the Jews of Europe during the Holocaust. He thought they should have walked willingly to their deaths for the high purpose of arousing the moral conscience of the world. What a world of Gandhian pacifists would have done once its conscience had been aroused, the saint never said.
Let's pause and ask if there may be better ways to de-radicalize Muslims in these regions than attacks. Could attacks be creating more jihadists? Perhaps cyber attacks in which we take over devices and place secular messages could be more effective than killing. Back to Sam.
Pacifism seems to place infinite weight on sins of commission and none whatsoever on those of omission. It is a counterfeit ethics, for instead of grappling with the hard realities of our world, pacifism takes as its focus the imagined moral purity of the pacifist himself, who merely pretends to be good, while others do the dirty work of defending civilization from its genuine enemies. Pacifism amounts to nothing more than a willingness to die, and to let others die, in the presence of evil. If you are uncomfortable with an operation that precisely targeted a group of jihadists who aspire to commit an actual genocide, just what sort of self-defense on Israel's part would you support?
Well, Sam, even though I agree with much of what you write and say, perhaps I would better support self-defense of Israel that didn't involve attacking first. How many of the bombs Hezbollah launched killed civilians? Most were struck down by the Iron Dome. As much as we can admire Sam, we should also ask the question if he has lines that, if Israel crosses, he will stop supporting them. Is Sam being paid by Israel? Does Sam have any critique for Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman losing their congressional seats as a result of AIPAC pouring money into their defeat?